Ever thought about measuring your riding rather than having someone comment on it? Or maybe just having a guess at how well you're doing? How about being able to measure it in a mark out of 10? Watch this video and find out how you can do that. Using the Synchronicity system, you can just do your normal riding, get a mark, save the data, discard it, start again, and learn. You can do that as many times as you like. You know, there are four main ways that you can measure your riding. You can measure your riding using the tension in the reins, and you can measure things like rhythm, consistency, contact, and balance. And in the next set of slides, you're going to see what each of these means and how you can get a mark out of 10 for each of these very important parameters. You know, rhythm is really everywhere. It's to do with day length, with the seasons, the changing of the seasons, the tides, as we've got a diagram here to show you in a moment. And of course, it is also in the way that you and your horse move, the rhythm in the reins. It's a fantastic thing. We're going to just spend a little bit of time looking at the tides here. So go down to the beach, take your horse if you want to. And what you do is you check on the tide. Is it high or is it low? And each day it goes high twice and it goes low twice. Now on this graph, which you can see to the right, there's that daily rhythm going on, up and down twice a day. During the month, the tides get higher and they get lower. So on top of this daily rhythm, there's a monthly rhythm which goes twice a month. So you've got the high tides very high twice a month and the very low tides very low twice a month too. And that depends on where the moon is in relation to the earth. So it's a really interesting thing. Shows you how much rhythm is important in nature. And what we're going to be mainly interested in for the rest of this video is rhythm through the reins, the way your horse and you can record the rhythm. Okay, there's nothing too much to worry about here. There's just a couple of graphs. But what I'm showing is how the rein tension rises and falls as you ride around your arena. Now, as you look at the video in the top right-hand corner, you'll be able to see how the horse's feet hit the ground at a particular time. And this is reflected in the tension in the reins. The tension rises and falls in rhythm with this frequency. So let's have a look at the upper graph. This has a time difference of 0.3 seconds between each maximum point. And in the lower one, there's a time difference of 0.6 seconds. Now the lower one is happening at a lower frequency, 1.7 hertz. And in the upper one, it's happening at a higher frequency at 3.3 hertz. So can you work out already which one is likely to be trot or canter? Well, as you look through the videos that are appearing in the top right-hand corner, try to count the number of times one of the horse's legs hits the ground. Do that over, say, 10 seconds or so, and then divide by 10 seconds, and you'll end up with the frequency. If you get it right, you might well find out which of these two is likely to be trot and which is canter. Just a word of warning, do remember that the trot is a 2-time beat, so watch out for that when you're making your calculations. So the graphs on the previous slide, when you were watching the videos, were perfect situations where everything was happening. But whenever have we had a perfect situation? Really not very often, if at all. So normally there's some what we call noise going on in the rain tension. It's because your balance isn't absolutely perfect, the footfall frequency isn't perfect, and there's real world stuff coming in to give us a kind of a signal which is not quite so perfect as the ones we previously saw. But nevertheless, we can aspire to have those perfect, what we call sinusoidal or rhythmical rain tension signals. So the picture in the upper right hand side shows what might happen with left and right rain tension that's a little bit noisy as you're going around the arena. And what we can do, it's very clever in Synchronicity, is calculate how much of the perfect signal is contained inside that noisy signal. And if we get it absolutely right, or if your riding is good enough, then you get a perfect single note frequency. There's a single frequency going on and you get a great score. You get a mark of 1. So we convert really the noise in the data into the amount by which you get less than 1. And if it's all noise, then I'm afraid you get 0. Now that's not likely to be the case, but you're going to strive hard to get a score of 1 with perfect frequency, and that means that you're riding really in sync with your horse. Okay, so suppose you ride for, say, 30 seconds around the arena and it all goes quite well to start with, and then your horse spooks at something, or maybe you come out of balance and then you recover again and it goes well again for a short while, and then maybe it goes a little bit bad after a few more seconds and then gets better again. What all that means is that you've ended up with an inconsistent ride. It's quite simple to understand. So what I think we're all trying to do is ride around for 30 seconds or a minute, or a whole dressage test, 4 minutes or so, and try to get the frequency all the same rhythm in the gait that you're choosing to be in, and also the rein contact, the weight in the reins must be as smooth as possible and not have much variation. If we can achieve that, we get great consistency, and once again you get a mark of 1 for that. So that's what we mean by consistency. Now here's something we get asked all of the time. What's the ideal rein tension? You know, is it too high or is it too low? The simple answer in a way is that it kind of is the one which gives you the consistency and rhythm you're looking for, because that means that the horse is happy with what you're doing, you're applying the right sort of tension to engage your horse, and the horse and you are going forward in a purposeful manner. Now that doesn't sound too precise, and so that's exactly why we don't have an exact ideal rein contact for everybody. There are going to be a whole range of them depending on how well you're going. But what we can say is that there is definitely some areas that you don't want to stray into. Clearly there's going to be rein tensions that are too high. You all know the feeling. The horse suddenly feels like lead in your hands. He's diving forward into the bit and you've lost your real contact. And the other one, of course, is the one where you have very light contact. It may seem great, but quite often it just means that the horse is not taking the contact forward. You're not able to engage his hindquarters, and that's also not a good situation. So on either side of this range of ideal rein contacts, there are bad things that can happen, and that's how we calculate it. So if you're somewhere in the middle central region there, you've got a happy horse, got a happy rider. And the fourth key skill that we're trying to get through in this way of measuring a riding is balance. Now, of course, balance really means that you've got a good straight horse and that your weight is distributed evenly on both sides. But it isn't always the case that that's what you want, because when you're on a circle, clearly there is going to be more weight on one side rather than the other. So equal balance or a good balance really refers to the idea that when you've done some sort of riding where you've tested both reins out, both sides, and you've ended up with an average weight in the reins which is equal on both sides, I guess that must mean that your horse and you are entirely in balance and don't have a preference for one rein or the other. So that's something else to aim for, balance in all things. So let's just remind ourselves of the 4 key skills: rhythm, consistency, contact and balance. 4 things that we're trying to get right. Now each of these is calculated on a scale of 0 to 1. If you do that and you multiply them together, you multiply that number by 10, you end up with a score out of 10. And it gives you an indication on how well you're doing in each of the 4 skills that are rhythm, consistency, contact and balance. So that's how the mark is calculated for each hand. So we do that with the right hand, do it with the left hand, and then average those 2 together to give you this mark on the phone. So if you've got everything right, you're going to be close to 10. And if you need to work on some aspects, you're going to get a lower mark. Here's a mark of 4 showing, with some examples on how those scores could be made up. So have a look at those for a moment or two and try and think about which one of those you would prefer to have as your score. In every single one, there are some things or a thing to work on. Now, if you want to know what it is that you need to work on to improve your score, you just go to your online account, and that's where all of these marks are broken down, and you can read in detail about which of the marks is lowest and how you can improve. You need to think about, I suppose, why you got a mark lower in one aspect rather than another. See if you can work on it to improve the overall score. So you can do that by going online to the cloud community, and also you can see on there leaderboards, and this is an example leaderboard which just shows the overall mark for a number of riders in the cloud community. You know, one of the great things about this system is that it's going to help your trainer get feedback about how you're doing. So trainer's going to get some sort of really objective feedback on how well they're managing to teach you. And also you're going to better practice in between sessions to work out how to improve between one session and the next. So the feedback here is objective and really accurate, and you really can plot the progress as you improve on the various 4 things: rhythm, consistency, contact and balance. Horses get a better deal too because you're not trying too hard. Sometimes you know you want to make progress faster than you can really do, and that forces you to make changes to your riding which are not for the benefit of either of you. So horses get a better deal, and that's got to be a good thing. And what's really exciting about the future is, suppose we could measure the riding in competitions. Now it is true that we're measuring the quality of the horse-rider interaction, and there will still be a place for judges to tell you how well your horse is getting his hocks underneath him and so on. But what the judges can't do is that they can't tell really what the rhythm, consistency, balance and so on through the reins is. They can't really tell what you're doing to create that impression of great riding. And I think that's really where it's going to be exciting for the future. So watch out for that as we go forward with Synchronicity and Avansce. Finally, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope to see you soon. Bye.